JFK arrives in 61, wanting to put America's immediate president behind him. In other words, he had seen in Dwight Eisenhower a gray, distant, stolid America and a limited presidency. He arrives as the captain of cool and as a vision of glamour and later celebrity, but more than that, eloquence and elegance in the United States that was entering a new era. His campaign slogan was, let's get America moving again. And so he sees, as a student of history that he was, a bigger presidency. And he sees, more than that, an appeal to public service. One of his trademarks years later is not just his youthful exuberance, but his call to public service, seeing politics as a noble profession.
How did Richard Nixon and the Nixon years shape our views of the presidency in an entirely different way?
There's many ways to look at the Nixon years because he's a man of, as all presidents are, of great contradictions. But one way to look at it is as the third term of the Kennedy-Johnson 3 terms. As Lyndon Johnson picked up the standard from the fallen Jack Kennedy and moved a lot of Kennedy's ideas into reality, so did Richard Nixon in his first term sign, approve, institute, introduce many of the ideas that were still lingering around from the New Frontier and the Great Society. As many people have said, he was the last liberal president before we got to Barack Obama. And he indeed even introduced a health care plan that was then reintroduced and passed in the Obama administration. The Affordable Care Act was virtually the same as the National Health Care Plan that Richard Nixon had proposed way back in 1974. And because of his own very quirky personality, had a very poor self-image, he was always insecure. He was Iago to his own Othello, always whispering in his ear that nothing he could do was good enough. His mother didn't love him, nobody could love him. As he famously told David Frost, "I'm not a lovable person." And this all culminates in the tragedy of Richard Nixon, which was that this presidency, which did many good things, baking in the crucible of Vietnam and the presidency, collapses and crumbles. And he gets the distinction of being the only American president to resign in disgrace.
You inadvertently used the phrase "picking up the standard," which leads all of us who are fans of the Montreal Canadiens. Used to be. Well, at least they're not the Maple Leafs. To know what hangs in the locker room of the Canadiens from failing hands. We passed the torch from World War I. So has that torch been passed sufficiently to Donald Trump, and does he know it?
Well, he certainly doesn't know it, and he certainly has got the torch, but he doesn't appreciate it at all. I mean, he's almost wears it as a badge of honor that he's doesn't appreciate history. And he shows his disrespect for the office entirely and the office he holds by the way he denigrates repeatedly his predecessors who have held it before him. People out there must be thinking, why don't they fight back? Why don't they say something back? But there is this President's Club. There's a very good book written called The President's Club, and they respect the office of the president, and they respect the men, and they're all men, of course, so far, who have held the office, because nobody knows what an isolating, scary place that is, except the men who have held it. And so however many differences they have with the people who've held it, they are respectful.